Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Glad to have you with us. Today, we're digging into something that, well, it might just change how you look at yourself and, your everyday life. The topic for this deep dive is pretty provocative: the addictions that decide your future. Now, hold on. Before you think this is all clinical stuff, the material we looked at asks a really different question, a very personal one. It basically redefined what most of us even mean by addiction. So our mission today is to unpack how lots of our daily habits, the small stuff, the big stuff, are actually addictions in disguise. And maybe more importantly, how really getting it, could open up a path to a more fulfilling future, maybe even a more successful one. And just a heads up, the way our sources compare the 99% and the top 1%, it's pretty striking.
Oh, it really is. And what's so relevant, I think, is that we're not talking about, the usual suspects, substance abuse and all that. This redefined idea of addiction feels incredibly timely, especially in this, hyper-distracted, dopamine-driven world we're all living in. The sources are really clear. This is about something much more universal. It's about how we spend our most valuable resources, our time, our focus, our energy. It really flips the script on a concept we thought we understood.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A crucial reframe, I think. And it kind of forces us, and you listening, to face this core question from the source material. It definitely made me think. The question isn't if you're an addict. The real question is, what are you addicted to? Okay, so let's jump straight into that main idea then. The material we're diving into suggests that you too, listening right now, everyone is an addict. But wait, it's definitely not in the way we usually think about that word. It's much broader, more pervasive.
Exactly. The argument is that addiction itself has sort of shifted, or maybe our understanding of it needs to. It's moved beyond just, heroin or cocaine. It shows up in these really common everyday things like just scrolling through reels without thinking, or, getting sucked into binge watching a whole season, eating junk food constantly, living for those quick hits of pleasure. And here's the kicker. The point the material really hammers home. These addictions are far more dangerous than most people realize. Why? Because they're subtle. They just slowly chip away at your potential, at your time, without those big, obvious red flags we usually associate with addiction.
And this is where the source material draws a really sharp line in the sand. It says something like 99% of people stay trapped in cycles of procrastination and pleasure. That's a huge majority. But then it points to the top 1%, those who lead, innovate, and build empires. They're addicted too, just addicted to completely different things.
Yeah.
So it's not whether you're addicted, it's what you're addicted to. Yeah. That's a powerful idea, right?
It really is. The top 1%, they're also, consumed by certain activities. They show this incredible focus, this dedication that, by this definition, it's addiction. But what they're obsessed with is totally different. They're addicted to things like learning, growth, health, and creation. The key difference, the absolute core of it, is the object of that intense focus. One set of habits leads down a path of, stagnation, maybe regret. The other set, it fuels growth, achievement, and maybe even, real fulfillment.
Okay, so if we kind of accept this bigger definition of addiction, it makes you look really hard at what most of us are addicted to, even if we don't call it that. Our sources really dig into these habits that maybe without us noticing guarantee mediocrity. And I bet some of these might sound a little too familiar to people listening.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with the trap of social media reels. We all know this one. Every time you swipe on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, boom, you get a tiny microdose of dopamine, that little hit of feel-good brain chemical. And these platforms, they're brilliantly engineered to keep you swiping, keep you chasing that next little buzz. Now, get this, and this part from the material, it honestly gave me pause. Neuroscientists are apparently comparing the dopamine hit from reels to cocaine. Think about that. Just scrolling, it's tapping into that same powerful reward pathway.
Wow. It looks intense.
It is. But the crucial difference the material points out is this. Cocaine destroys your body. Reels destroy your time, and time is the only currency you can't earn back. And then there's this statistic. The average person spends 3 hours a day on social media. 3 hours. You stretch that out over a lifetime, that's 8 years wasted. 8 years you could have been learning, building, creating something.
8 years just gone.
Yeah. And it's not just the phone apps, is it? Building on that idea of easy, cheap rewards, the material looks at mindless entertainment. Think Netflix, YouTube. Our sources call them carefully engineered distractions, not just harmless fun. You know how they drop whole seasons at once? For binge watching, that's not an accident. It's designed to hook you, keep you consuming. Hours vanish, and you might tell yourself, oh, I'm just relaxing. But the material pushes back, saying maybe It's escapism from the life you don't want to confront, a kind of temporary numbing.
Escapism. That hits a nerve.
Then there's junk food addiction, another big one. The science here is pretty sobering, too. The deep dive mentions that sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. 8 times. And food companies, they spend fortunes figuring out the bliss point. That's the exact mix of salt, fat, sugar that just completely hijacks your brain's reward system, makes you crave more even when you're not hungry. It's deliberate.
So it's not just that it tastes good, it's engineered to be addictive.
Precisely. And the results are all around us. Obesity, diabetes, and fatigue aren't accidental epidemics. Our material frames them as the direct result, the byproduct of this engineered addiction. Your taste buds get a short-term win, but your long-term health, it pays the price.
Right. Okay, what else?
Well, there's procrastination, the silent killer. Seems so harmless, doesn't it? Oh, I'll do it later. We all do it.
Guilty.
Me too. But psychologists, according to our source, call it the gateway drug of failure. Because every time you put something off, you're basically training your brain to choose comfort over growth. And that habit, it compounds into regret. It's not just about the tasks you don't do, it's about building this pattern of avoidance that blocks any real progress.
The comfort trap.
Exactly. And finally, there's this broader category. Temporary pleasures. Hey, this covers everything from, say, partying every weekend to online shopping sprees. You know, those quick fixes. The argument is that chasing these short-term highs leaves people broke, tired, and empty. It's the ultimate irony, really. Short-term pleasures destroy long-term happiness. You trade your future for a fleeting dopamine hit, and then you're left feeling worse.
Okay, wow. Those stats, especially about social media and sugar, they're pretty jarring. I mean, 8 years, 8 times more addictive than cocaine. It makes you think. But I wonder, do you think people listening might resist calling and scrolling Instagram an addiction? It feels like a really strong word for something so normal. And, you know, for you listening, what does this really mean? Do any of these patterns ring a bell? And the tough question is, are they actually helping you get where you want to go? Or are they, like the material suggests, maybe locking you into mediocrity? You know, it's easy to focus on the negatives, the pitfalls. But here's where the material really flips the script. And this part I found incredibly motivating. Now we get to look at the other side. The deep dive is really clear. The world's most successful people, entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, they're addicts too. But their addictions are fundamentally different. They actually fuel growth instead of destruction.
Exactly. The 1% are hooked on things that build them up, not tear them down. Take learning high-income skills. The material emphasizes that successful people aren't just consuming info passively, they're actively pouring time and energy into skills that directly boost their income, their impact. Skills like copywriting, coding, public speaking, sales, negotiation. Things that literally multiply income.
Real tangible skills.
Right. And the contrast is stark. While the 99% scroll for entertainment, the 1% scroll through e-learning platforms, books, and mentorship, they're investing in themselves. The payoff. It's exponential, according to the source. It's a whole different game.
Okay, so learning valuable skills. What else?
Then there's building income sources. This is key. The 1% aren't just trading time for money. They're addicted to creating systems, businesses, and investments that generate cash flow. Things that make money for them, even when they sleep. The material puts it bluntly. While others spend hours looking for discounts, the top 1% spend hours building assets. It's about creating value, not just consuming it.
Building assets versus hunting bargains. Got it.
Working out is another huge one for the 1%. And it's not just about looking good, not vanity. The deep dive connects fitness directly to energy, stamina, and discipline. Foundational stuff. It mentions billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and how committed they are to fitness. The idea is physical strength feeds mental strength. A weak body cannot sustain a strong empire. It's about building the energy and resilience you need for big goals.
Makes sense. Physical foundation for mental strength.
Yeah. And then reading and traveling. These are powerful addictions for the top percentile too. Why? Because they expand perspective like almost nothing else. The source gives this amazing contrast. The average person reads less than 4 books a year. The average CEO, 60 books a year.
60, that's more than 1 a week.
Incredible, right? All that input, new ideas, different viewpoints, diverse cultures from travel, it massively feeds the mind. It expands your ability to think, create, and lead. It's like an addiction to growing your brain.
An addiction to new neural pathways. I like that.
And lastly, strategic networking. Now, this isn't just schmoozing or collecting contacts. It's about intentionally building relationships with people who push you, who are playing at the level you aspire to. Our material stresses the power of one conversation, how it can open doors that hard work alone cannot. But it clarifies this isn't about just attending parties. It's about aligning with visionaries who push you to level up, finding your tribe, basically.
People who will lift you higher.
Exactly. And what's so interesting about all these positive addictions is that, yes, they take effort, discipline, especially at first, but they become their own reward, that feeling of progress, of accomplishment, that fuels more action. You're building something real, something lasting.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how that same basic human drive for reward and satisfaction can push us in such completely opposite directions.
Right.
And that really leads us to what the material calls the shocking truth. Both paths, the 99% path and the 1% path, they're both driven by addiction.
Exactly. That's the key neurological insight here. The material explains that deep down, both the 99% and the 1% are chasing dopamine, that reward chemical. The basic brain mechanism. It's identical. The huge difference lies in where it comes from, and crucially, the long-term cost. You've got cheap dopamine, quick hits from Reels, junk food, Netflix, easy to get, feels good momentarily, but ultimately destructive to your bigger goals. Then you have earned dopamine, the kind that comes from growth, health, achievement. It takes effort, it's often delayed, but it's deeply fulfilling and builds real, lasting value.
Cheap dopamine versus earned dopamine. I like that distinction.
The brain fires either way. The question is just, does that dopamine loop compound into regret or does it compound into success?
And that helps explain why it's so hard to break free from the destructive path, right?
Yeah. The deep dive argues that most people never escape it, and it makes a bold claim. The system is rigged. Think about it. Social media algorithms are literally designed to keep you scrolling, to maximize your time on site. Fast food companies engineer products to keep you craving more, using that bliss point science. Streaming services want you glued to the screen. These aren't accidents. They're business models.
Wow, the system is rigged. That's a heavy thought.
It is, and people stay stuck, not just because of those external forces, but also because we tend to underestimate the power of compounding, both good and bad. 10-minute scrolling doesn't feel dangerous until you multiply it by years. Then it's massive. One unhealthy meal doesn't kill you until it becomes thousands. One missed workout seems harmless until your body collapses at 50. It's the slow accumulation of those tiny, seemingly insignificant choices that really shapes our destiny.
It's not the big blowups, it's the tiny leaks that sink the ship over time. Makes total sense. And so the material leaves you, our listener, with this really stark ultimate choice. It says everyone is an addict, but you have two choices. Stay with the 99% hooked on easy pleasures and wake up one day wondering why life passed you by. Or join the 1%, become addicted to growth, build skills, create wealth, and design a life that most people only dream about. The punchline is powerful. Success isn't about avoiding addiction. It's about choosing the right addictions, consciously choosing where you direct that powerful human drive. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, the big takeaway seems to be the huge, almost unavoidable impact our chosen addictions have on our future. It's a potent reminder, isn't it? History doesn't really remember the folks who just scrolled or binge shows endlessly. It remembers the builders, the creators, the leaders, the ones who channeled that addictive drive into obsessions that, well, changed things for themselves and maybe for others too.
Which brings us right back to that first question, really. What are your daily habits, your addictions, truly building in your life? Or what are they slowly eroding? It's a vital question to ask yourself, honestly, wherever you are on your journey. Are your habits pushing you forward? Or are they subtly holding you back?
Absolutely. It's about that conscious awareness. And maybe we can leave you with this final, pretty provocative thought, straight from the source material. Your answer doesn't just define your present, it defines your entire future. Something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope it's given you some things to think about, maybe sparked a desire to look closely at your own patterns and to consciously make that choice. We'll catch you next time.